The stars shone bright against the dark space as the Galactic Confederation ship Wanderer moved slowly through an unexplored part of the galaxy. Commander Tahoe stood tall on the observation deck, his gray skin reflecting the blue light from the screens around him. He watched as his crew worked at their stations, checking readings and data from the small blue-green planet below them. "Commander, I'm picking up something strange," called out Officer Dahian from his station. His 3 eyes blinked rapidly as he looked at his screen. Energy readings from the surface. They don't match any natural patterns. Tahoe walked over and looked at the screen. The planet was supposed to be empty except for plants and simple animals. No one had ever come to this part of space before. At least that's what all their records said. "Run a full scan," ordered Tahoe. "I want to know exactly what we're looking at." The crew moved with purpose, their training taking over. Science Officer Minji, a slender alien with smooth blue skin and 4 fingers on each hand, worked faster than the others. Her species was known for their quick minds and careful analysis. "Analysis complete, Commander," Minji reported after a few minutes. Her 4-fingered hands moved quickly across the control panel as she brought up detailed images. The signatures indicate artificial power sources. Someone is down there using technology. "Impossible," muttered Tahoe, his ridge of spines along his head rising slightly, a sign of surprise among his people. "This sector hasn't been explored by any spacefaring civilization." "Check our records again." "I already did," said Minji. 3 times. No one from the Confederation has ever visited this system. It's not even in our exploration plans for the next decade." Tahoe stared at the planet turning slowly below them. It looked peaceful. Blue oceans, green and brown land masses, white clouds swirling in its atmosphere. But the readings didn't lie. Someone or something was down there. "Take us into orbit," Tahoe ordered. Full sensor sweep of the surface. The Wanderer moved closer to the planet, its powerful sensors scanning every part of the surface. The images that came back surprised everyone on the bridge. "Buildings," said Navigator Junot, pointing to clusters of structures on the main screen. "Look, settlements across the northern continent. But they're strange, not like any design I've seen before." The crew gathered around the main screen, looking at the images with wonder and confusion. The settlements appeared to be a mix of simple structures and more complex ones. Some looked like they were made of local materials, wood and stone. Others showed clear signs of advanced technology. "I'll lead the landing party," Tahoe decided after studying the images. "Minji, Dahian, Junot, you're with me." Full environmental suits and standard first contact protocols. The shuttle broke through the planet's atmosphere 2 hours later, descending toward a clearing near one of the smaller settlements. Tahoe felt the familiar mix of excitement and caution that came with every new discovery. His species had been part of the Galactic Confederation for centuries, exploring and mapping the stars, but genuine surprises were rare. "Life signs approaching the landing zone," reported Daeon as they touched down. "About a dozen beings, Victal, moving cautiously." The team checked their translation devices and weapons before opening the shuttle door. The air that rushed in was fresh and clean, smelling of grass and flowers. Their sensors showed it was safe to breathe, but protocol demanded they keep their helmets on for the first contact. Tahoe was the first to step onto the planet's surface. The gravity was slightly stronger than on the ship, making his movements feel heavier. The clearing was surrounded by tall trees with purple-tinged leaves that rustled in a gentle breeze. A small group of beings emerged from the tree line about 50 meters away. They walked slowly, clearly cautious, but not showing fear. As they came closer, Tahoe felt his heart rate increase. "Commander," whispered Minji beside him, her voice filled with shock. They're humans." Tahoe stared in disbelief. The beings approaching them were unmistakably human. 2 arms, 2 legs, faces with 2 eyes, a nose, and a mouth. They looked almost exactly like the humans who were part of the Confederation, except their clothes were different, simpler, made of what looked like hand-woven fabrics and leather. "Humans," Danhyun's voice was filled with confusion. This far from Earth, that's impossible. The humans stopped about 10 meters away. One of them, an older male with gray hair and a beard, stepped forward. "Welcome to our world," he said in clear, standard human language. "We've been expecting visitors from the stars for many generations." Tahoe removed his helmet, a gesture of trust. "I am Commander Tahoe of the Galactic Confederation ship Wanderer. How is it possible that humans are living on this planet? The nearest human colony is hundreds of light years from here." The old man smiled. "My name is Ki-yun. We have much to tell you. Please, come to our village. We will share food and stories." The village was unlike anything Tahoe had expected. The outer buildings were simple structures made of wood and stone, but as they moved deeper into the settlement, they saw technology that shouldn't exist in such an isolated place. Some buildings had light panels that didn't seem to need power sources. Water flowed through clear pipes that appeared to clean themselves. "Our ancestors came here 512 years ago," explained Ki-yun as they sat in a large community building. "They were seeking freedom from Earth's restrictions. 500 years. Minji's eyes widened. But human space travel wasn't capable of reaching this far back then. Ki-yun nodded. They had technology that was ahead of its time, and they had other gifts too. As night fell over the village, the aliens from the Wanderer were shown to guest quarters. Tahoe couldn't sleep, his mind racing with questions. He stepped outside into the cool night air. That's when he saw her. A young woman with dark hair was helping clear debris from a recent storm. A massive tree had fallen across a path. The woman, Ki-yun had called her Neri, glanced around as if making sure no one was watching. Then, with a deep breath, she bent down, wrapped her arms around the trunk, and lifted. The entire tree, which must have weighed several tons, rose from the ground as she straightened her back. Tahoe froze, not believing his eyes. No ordinary human could display such strength. Nari gently moved the tree to the side of the path and set it down, then dusted off her hands and walked away as if what she had done was completely normal. Commander Tahoe stood in the shadows, realizing that the discovery of humans on this distant planet was just the beginning of the mysteries they would uncover here. The morning sun shone bright and warm as the aliens prepared for their first official meeting with the human colony. Commander Tahoe had reported what he saw the night before, a young woman lifting an entire tree by herself. His crew was excited but nervous about what they might discover. Sino-anthropologist Juwu checked her recording equipment one last time. Her job was to study alien cultures, but this was different. These were humans, but humans who had somehow changed. As the lead scientist on cultural matters, she would head this formal meeting. "Remember," she told the team as they walked toward the village center, "we observe first, then ask questions. These humans have been isolated for centuries. We don't want to overwhelm them." The village looked different in daylight. Juwu noticed how the buildings blended natural materials with strange technology. Some walls seemed to change color as the sun hit them from different angles. Water flowed through the village in clear pipes that had no visible pumps. A group of humans waited for them in the village square. At the front stood a tall woman with long white hair despite her youthful face. She wore a simple blue robe with patterns that seemed to shift and move like water. "Welcome," the woman said with a warm smile. "I am Yuna, leader of our colony. We are honored to formally meet representatives of the stars." Juwu stepped forward and bowed slightly. "I am Sino-anthropologist Juwu of the Galactic Confederation. We are pleased to meet you and learn about your people." Yuna gestured toward a large building behind her. "Please, join us inside. We have much to share." The building was unlike any Juwu had seen before. From outside, it looked like it was made of wood, but inside, the walls had a metallic sheen that changed colors subtly. It wasn't metal exactly, more like wood that had somehow been fused with some unknown metallic compound. The room was cool despite the warm day outside, with no visible cooling system. "This material," Minji asked, touching a wall gently. "What is it?" We call it living metal, said Yuna. It's a fusion of local wood and minerals, bonded at a cellular level. The trees absorb the minerals as they grow, and we shape them through a process our scientists developed. The aliens sat around a large circular table with the colony leaders. Servants brought in drinks that smelled sweet and refreshing. I'm sure you have many questions, Yuna began. Let me start with who we are. Our ancestors were scientists from Earth, working on human enhancement programs that Earth governments considered too radical and dangerous. What kind of enhancements? Asked Chu, taking notes on her small device. Genetic modifications, neural enhancements, cellular regeneration, Yunha explained. They believed humans could evolve beyond their natural limitations, but their research scared those in power. When discovery became inevitable, they fled with their research and a few hundred volunteers who believed in their vision. You've been here for 5 centuries with no outside contact, Ju asked, her 3 eyes blinking rapidly in surprise. The technology to travel this far wasn't supposed to exist back then. By choice, Yunha nodded. Earth wanted to weaponize what we were becoming. We chose isolation instead. Our ancestors had developed experimental faster-than-light technology that was never shared with Earth governments. They knew they would be hunted if they stayed in known space. Commander Tejo leaned forward. And the woman I saw last night, lifting a tree that would crush an ordinary human. Yuna smiled. Nari, yes, enhanced strength is common among us now. Would you like to see more of what we've become? The aliens followed Yuna and other colony leaders outside. They walked through fields where crops grew in perfect rows without any visible farming equipment. The plants themselves looked different, larger with brighter colors than normal Earth plants. Our food is modified to provide exactly what our bodies need, explained a man named Doyun, the colony's chief scientist. He was shorter than most of the other humans, with quick, precise movements. 1 meal can sustain us for 2 days if necessary. As they walked further from the village, Ju gasped. In a clearing, humans worked alongside massive creatures that looked like nothing she had ever seen before. The animals had 6 legs and bodies like bears, but with scales covering their skin instead of fur. They carried large logs and stones, working in perfect cooperation with the humans. Native species, said Yuna. We call them shapers. We formed a bond with them generations ago. They seem to understand exactly what the humans want, observed Minji. They do, Yuna confirmed. Watch the children. In a nearby field, young humans played a game that looked like a mix of tag and hide and seek. Above them, large bird-like creatures with leathery wings circled slowly. When one child wandered too close to a steep drop, one of the flying creatures swooped down and gently pushed the child back with its wing. Those predators protect the children, Daehyun asked in disbelief. We call them watchers, said Dohyun. They respond to our thoughts. The children don't even realize they're doing it, but they project their emotions and basic needs. The watchers respond. You can communicate with animals using your minds. Ju tried to keep the shock from her voice. Dohyun smiled. The radiation from our twin suns affects neural development in specific ways. Over generations, we've developed certain capabilities. The aliens watched in wonder as Dohyun stopped walking and turned toward a nearby tree heavy with round purple fruits. He stared intently at one fruit for a moment. The fruit gently detached from its branch and floated through the air, landing softly in his outstretched hand. Telekinesis, whispered Minji, her blue skin paling slightly. Actual telekinesis. We don't use that term, said Dohyun, taking a bite of the fruit. Sweet juice ran down his chin. We simply call it reaching. Most of us can only move small objects. Only a few, like Nari, have developed stronger abilities. Commander Taho's face showed concern. This is why you've stayed hidden. If Earth knew. Yuna finished his thought. They would either fear us or try to use us. Neither option was acceptable to our ancestors, nor is it to us. Juwu looked around at the peaceful colony, the strange animals, and the humans who had become something new. Your people have created something remarkable here. We've had 500 years of peace to develop our way of life, said Yuna. The question now is what your discovery of us means for our future. As they walked back toward the village, a small human child ran up to Juwu. The little girl, no more than 6 years old, looked up at the alien with curious eyes. Without fear, she reached out and touched Juwu's hand gently. Juwu felt a strange sensation, like a whisper in her mind. It wasn't words exactly, more like feelings. Curiosity, welcome, happiness. The child smiled and ran back to her friends. Did she just? Juwu couldn't finish the sentence. Yes, said Yuna softly. The children connect more easily than adults. She was saying hello in her own way. The aliens exchanged nervous glances. These humans had evolved beyond anything they had imagined possible. The Galactic Confederation would need to decide very carefully how to handle this discovery. The Wanderer had been orbiting the colony planet for 2 weeks. Every day, the alien team learned more amazing things about the humans who lived there. Juwu spent hours recording everything she saw, taking samples when the colonists allowed it, and talking with people of all ages. Today was important. Juwu stood in the communication room of the ship, ready to report everything she had learned to the Galactic Confederation Council. The large screen in front of her showed 12 faces, leaders from different alien species who made up the council. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few looked almost human except for their colorful skin or extra eyes. Thank you for this emergency meeting, Juwu began. What we found on this planet changes everything we thought we knew about humans. She touched her control pad, and images of the colony appeared on a second screen. These humans have been here for 500 years, completely cut off from Earth. In that time, they've changed in ways we never thought possible. Their abilities aren't just physical. Juwu showed video of Nari lifting the massive tree. They've developed low-level telepathy, enhanced strength, and accelerated healing. Yesterday, I watched a man cut his hand while working. The wound closed completely in less than an hour. The council members murmured among themselves. A reptilian counselor leaned forward, his yellow eyes narrowing. Are they dangerous? He asked. They've shown no hostility, Juwu answered. They've created a peaceful society that works with nature instead of fighting against it. For the next hour, Juwu's team presented their findings. Science Officer Minji explained the colony's scientific achievements. Despite having limited resources, they've created a sustainable society with minimal technology, but extraordinary biological innovation. She said, showing diagrams of the colony systems. Their water filtration system uses genetically modified plants with roots that clean water better than our best machines. Nothing like we've seen before. In the labs section of the Wanderer, other scientists studied samples from the colony. The plants, animals, and even the soil contained unique properties. Some of the younger scientists were excited about the possibilities, talking quickly as they compared notes. These modified crops could help feed starving worlds, said one. Their healing methods could revolutionize medicine, said another. Not everyone shared their excitement. In a secure room, Commander Tahoe met with security officers to discuss potential threats. We don't know the limits of their abilities, said Security Chief Jawan. If they can read minds, move objects with thought, and have superhuman strength, they could pose a serious risk. They've had these abilities for generations and have chosen peace, Tahoe reminded him. That should count for something. While these discussions continued, Navigator Sunwoo worked alone in the mapping room. He had been studying the planet's geological structure for days. Something didn't look right in the data. He ran another scan, focusing on the area beneath the colony. That can't be good, he muttered as new readings appeared. He quickly sent a message to Commander Tahoe. Need to speak urgently about planet stability. 1 hour later, the ship's senior officers gathered around the mapping table. Sunwoo pointed to red areas on the 3-dimensional map of the planet. The planet's crust is unstable in this entire region, he explained. My calculations show that this area will experience catastrophic tectonic activity within months. Earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, possibly worse. Are you certain? Asked Tahoe. I checked the data 3 times, Sunwoo confirmed. This colony sits on what will soon be the most dangerous place on the planet. We need to tell them, said Minji. They might need to evacuate. The next day, Tahoe, Juwoo, and Sunwoo met with the colony's leaders in their central meeting hall. They explained what they had discovered about the planet's crust. To their surprise, young colony engineer Hyun, a man with quick eyes and clever hands, wasn't shocked by the news. We've been monitoring the tremors for the past year, he said, showing them simple but effective monitoring equipment. Our resources are nearly depleted trying to reinforce the settlement. We've moved some people to safer areas, but we can't move the entire colony with what we have. We can help evacuate your people, offered Tahoe. The Confederation has protocols for this kind of situation. Hyunha, the colony leader, looked troubled. Leave our home. After 500 years, where would we go? Back on the Wanderer, a special communication arrived. Admiral Kang, the highest-ranking military officer in this sector of space, appeared on the main screen in the command center. I've reviewed your reports, said the Admiral, his green skin wrinkling with concern. The situation is complex. If we evacuate them, where do they go? These humans have abilities that could disrupt power balances throughout known space. No existing human colony would accept them, and other species might fear them. With respect, Admiral, said Tahoe, we can't leave them to die. I'm not suggesting that, Kang replied. But we need a plan that protects both them and the stability of the Confederation. I'm sending a diplomatic team. Keep the situation contained until they arrive. That evening, Juwoo sat alone in a small garden in the colony. She had come to think about everything she had learned and what might happen to these remarkable people. She didn't notice the 3 children approaching until they stood right in front of her. Hello, said the oldest, a girl about 10 years old. My name is Sora. This is Minho and Yona. Hello, said Juwoo, smiling at the children. Shouldn't you be with your families? We wanted to show you something, said Sora. She held out a thin piece of clear material. On it were drawings and writing, complex designs that looked like nothing a child should be able to create. What is this? Asked Juwoo, taking the material carefully. It's how to fix our planet, said Minho, the youngest boy. We dreamed it last night. All 3 of us had the same dream. Juwoo studied the designs. They showed a network of devices placed at specific points around the planet. The mathematics and engineering principles were far beyond what even Confederation scientists had developed. Did your parents help you make this? She asked. No, said Yona. The planet showed us. It speaks to us sometimes, in our dreams. Juwoo carefully rolled up the designs. Would you come with me to show this to my friends on the ship? The children agreed. When they reached the Wanderer, Juwoo took them straight to the science lab where Minji and other scientists were working. They say they can stabilize the planet with this, Juwoo explained, spreading out the children's designs. Minji studied the plans, her eyes growing wider. This is brilliant. If this works, it could not only save the colony but revolutionize how we handle planetary instability throughout the galaxy. Can you build it? Asked Sora. Some of it, said Minji. But some of these materials, I don't even recognize them. We know where to find them, said Minho confidently. We can show you. Commander Tahoe entered the lab, looking concerned. Admiral Kang's diplomatic team will be here in 3 days. We're supposed to wait for them before taking any action. In 3 days, we might feel the first major quake, said Sunwoo, who had joined them to look at the designs. If these children are right, we don't have time to wait. Tahoe looked at the children's designs, then at the eager faces of his crew, then at the colony visible through the viewport. He made his decision. We'll help them build this, he said. If it works, We'll have something amazing to show the Admiral when he arrives. The sun was setting when the ground first shook. Small tremors had happened before, but this was different. The soil cracked, trees swayed, and a low rumble filled the air like distant thunder that wouldn't stop. Inside the colony's main building, Taiho was meeting with Yuna and the other leaders when the cups on the table began to dance. Then the whole room started to shake. "Everyone out," yelled Doyun, the colony scientist. Now, people ran outside only to find the situation worse. The ground rolled like waves on water. Buildings creaked and swayed. A large crack opened across the central plaza, splitting the ground like a giant mouth. "We need to evacuate," shouted Taiho as the ground continued to rumble. He grabbed his communication device. "Wanderer, this is Commander Taiho. Prepare for emergency evacuation of colonists." Children cried as their parents held them tight. Colony members helped the old and injured move away from falling debris. The aliens from the Wanderer tried to organize people into groups. Through it all, Yunha stood calm, her white hair blowing in the dust-filled wind. When the first wave of shaking finally stopped, she raised her hand for attention. "No," Yunha said firmly, her voice somehow carrying to everyone. "This is our home. We have another option." Taiho stared at her in disbelief. "Another option? The ground is literally breaking apart beneath us." "Follow me," she said. "Bring your scientists. Quickly, before the next wave hits." Yunha led Taiho, Minji, and Sunwoo toward a small building that looked like a storage shed. Inside, she pressed her hand against what seemed to be a normal wooden wall. The hidden door slid open, revealing stairs that went deep underground. "How far down does this go?" asked Minji as they descended. The stairs seemed endless, carved directly into the rock. "Almost 2 kilometers, replied Hyun, the young engineer who had joined them. We needed to get close to the mantle. The stairs ended at a massive metal door. Do-hyun placed his hand on a sensor, and the door swung open. What they saw inside made the aliens stop and stare in wonder. They stood at the edge of an enormous chamber, easily the size of 10 large buildings. In the center sat a device unlike anything the aliens had seen before. It wasn't purely mechanical. Parts of it seemed to pulse and grow like a living thing. Tubes filled with glowing liquid connected to what looked like giant tree roots that spread out into the rock walls. Lights blinked and flowed across its surface in patterns that seemed almost like thoughts. "Our terraforming prototype," Hyun explained, walking toward the strange machine. "We've been building it for 50 years. It can stabilize the tectonic plates by redistributing energy through the planet's core, but we lack sufficient power to activate it fully." Minji walked around the device, her scientific mind racing as she studied it. "This is incredible. You've created a machine that's partly alive." "We don't separate technology and biology the way others do," said Do-hyun. "This machine grows and adapts. It can feel the planet's pain." The ground shook again, stronger this time. Dust fell from the ceiling of the chamber. "We're running out of time," said Yuna. "Can your ship help us power this?" Minji was already examining the power connections. "If we reroute energy from the Wanderer's main drive, we might be able to provide enough power to start the process." "Wait," said Taiho. "The main drive, that would drain our ship completely." "It would," confirmed Minji. "We'd be stranded here if it fails." Taiho looked at the faces around him. The colonists who had built something amazing, his crew who wanted to help, and thought about the hundreds of people above ground whose lives were in danger. "How long would it take to get the power transfer ready?" he asked. 4 hours, said Minji. "Maybe 3 if we have help." Another shake, stronger than before. A crack appeared in the chamber wall. "We don't have 3 hours, said Hyun. "Then we work faster," said Taiho. He touched his communication device. "This is Commander Taiho. I need all engineering personnel and equipment in my location immediately. We're going to power up a terraforming device." Within 30 minutes, the chamber was filled with activity. Alien engineers worked side by side with colony technicians. Minji led the power transfer design, while Hyun explained how the terraforming device worked. The machine will create 7 energy pillars at key points around the planet, Hyun said, showing a map. They'll form a network that channels the planet's internal pressure safely. We need teams at each location to activate the pillars, said Do-hyun. Once the machine starts, we'll have 20 minutes to turn them all on. 20 minutes. Sunwoo looked shocked. The farthest point is 50 kilometers away. We can't get there that quickly. We'll handle it, said Yumna. Our people can coordinate in ways yours can't. Outside, the earthquakes grew worse. Buildings began to collapse. The colonists gathered in the central plaza, sitting in circles and holding hands despite the danger. Their eyes were closed, and they seemed to be in some kind of trance. What are they doing? Asked Taeho when he came up for more equipment. Forming telepathic chains, explained a young colonist named Mina. They're connecting their minds to coordinate our teams across the colony. We've sent our strongest people to each pillar location. Back in the chamber, Minji finished the final connections between the Wanderer and the terraforming machine. Cables as thick as a person's arm ran from portable powered units that had been brought down from the ship. It's ready, she announced. But this will completely drain our ship's power. We won't be able to leave or even contact the Confederation until the power regenerates, which could take weeks. Do it, ordered Taeho. Minji pressed a series of buttons on her control pad. The lights in the chamber dimmed for a moment. Then the terraforming machine began to glow brighter. The liquid in the tubes moved faster, and the whole device seemed to wake up like a sleeping animal. Power transfer at 30%, reported Minji. The ground shook violently. Part of the chamber ceiling collapsed, nearly crushing 2 workers. We need more power, faster, shouted Hyun. 60%, said Minji. It's working, but the ship's systems are shutting down. Suddenly, the machine made a sound like a deep breath. The roots extending into the rock walls pulsed with light. On Hyun's monitor, 7 dots around the planet began to blink. The pillars are activating, he said. Teams, get ready. Through the telepathic chain, colonists at each location prepared the equipment needed to channel the energy that would soon come. Children as young as 8 stood alongside adults, all connected by their shared mental link. Power transfer complete, announced Minji as the lights in the chamber went completely dark, leaving only the glow of the machine. The Wanderer is now running on emergency power only. The terraforming device fully awakened. Energy flowed from it into the planet's crust. Above ground, the first energy pillar erupted from the colony center, a brilliant blue-white column of light that shot straight into the sky. One by one, 6 more pillars appeared across the horizon, each connecting to the others with arcs of energy that formed a network across the planet's surface. The ground continued to shake, but differently now, more like the planet was adjusting itself rather than breaking apart. High above the planet, Admiral Kang's flagship dropped out of faster-than-light travel. They had come to check on the Wanderer after it stopped sending reports. Admiral called the flagship's sensor officer. You need to see this. On the main view screen, they watched in awe as 7 massive energy pillars erupted from the planet's surface, forming a pulsing network that spread across the entire hemisphere. What in the name of the stars are they doing down there? Whispered Admiral Kang. 3 days had passed since the energy pillars first appeared. The ground no longer shook. The sky, which had been filled with dust and ash, was now clear and blue. Inside the underground control room, tired people worked at their stations, monitoring the massive change happening to their planet. Hyun hadn't slept in those 3 days. His eyes were red, but he smiled as he checked the readings on his screen. The integration is holding, he announced to everyone in the room. Planetary core temperature normalizing. It's working better than we hoped. Around the room, both colonists and aliens cheered. What should have taken millions of years of natural processes had been accomplished in just days. The planet's unstable crust had been reinforced. The dangerous pressure from the core was now being safely channeled through the energy network. Yuna stood beside Commander Tayo, looking at the main screen that showed the planet's new energy field spreading like beautiful blue veins across the surface. "Your people saved this world," said Tayo. "Without your terraforming device, nothing could have stopped the destruction. And without your ship's power, our device would have been useless," Yunho replied. "We saved it together." The door to the control room slid open. Admiral Kang entered, followed by a group of Confederation officials. The Admiral was tall with green scaly skin and piercing yellow eyes. He looked around the room with undisguised awe. "When we lost contact with the Wanderer, I feared the worst," he said to Taho. "Instead, I find you've helped accomplish a miracle." Taho introduced the Admiral to Yuma and the other colony leaders. The officials walked around the control room, examining the mix of alien technology and the colony's biological machinery. "The Confederation Council will want to study everything you've achieved here," said Admiral Kang. "This terraforming technique could save countless worlds across the galaxy." "We're willing to share knowledge," Yunho replied with a firm but friendly voice. "But we maintain our independence. We won't be studied like lab animals or forced to leave our home." The Admiral nodded slowly. "I understand. I'll recommend that the Confederation recognize your colony as a sovereign entity. Your people have earned that right." Outside the control center, the colony was rebuilding. Some buildings had been destroyed in the earthquakes, but the colonists worked together with amazing speed. Using their enhanced strength and mental connections, they cleared rubble and raised new structures in hours instead of days. The children helped too. Ju watched as young colonists used their abilities to lift materials and shape them into place. She took notes for her research, amazed at how naturally they used powers that would seem like magic to most humans. Inside one of the new buildings, scientists from both the colony and the Confederation worked together. They were making final adjustments to the energy network. Ju joined them, standing next to Minji, who was helping calibrate a monitoring device. Suddenly, Minji's hand shot out and pressed a button on the control panel. 2 seconds later, an alarm began to sound. "You pressed that before the alarm," said Ju, surprised. "You predicted that fluctuation." "How?" Minji looked startled, staring at her own hand as if it belonged to someone else. I just knew it was coming. I felt it, like a pressure in my mind right before it happened." Later that day, Admiral Kang met with Commander Taho and the senior officers of the Wanderer. They sat around a table in the ship, which was slowly regaining power. "Your actions were against protocol," said the Admiral, his face serious. "You risked your ship and crew on an unproven technology." "I accept full responsibility," Taho replied. "If you wish to relieve me of command." The Admiral raised his hand. "I was going to say, your actions were against protocol, but completely right. You saved this colony and discovered something that will change the Confederation forever." That evening, as engineers worked to restore the Wanderer's systems, Taho found Minji alone on the observation deck. She was staring at her hands, turning them over as if seeing them for the first time. "The neural radiation affected you," he said quietly. She nodded without looking up. "Not just me. Several crew members are showing preliminary changes. Daehyun says he can feel what others are feeling." Sunwoo calculated a complex navigation problem in his head instantly. "The radiation from this planet's twin suns, combined with something in the water and food we've consumed here. Are you concerned?" asked Tayo. Minji finally looked up and smiled. "No, I'm fascinated. These humans didn't just survive isolation. They evolved. And now, so might we. Think of the possibilities, Commander. Our species working together, learning from each other, evolving together." The next morning, the colony held a celebration. Tables filled with food and drink lined the newly rebuilt plaza. Colonists and aliens sat together, sharing meals and stories. Children ran between the tables, laughing. Admiral Kang spoke with Yunma for a long time. They agreed that a small Confederation outpost would be established in orbit around the planet. The colony would remain independent but would share its scientific discoveries. In return, the Confederation would provide protection and resources. A fair arrangement, said Yuna. After 500 years of isolation, perhaps it's time we rejoin the wider universe. On the colony's outskirts, away from the celebration, Hyun and Ju worked on a special project. They carefully placed records, images, and data chips into a container made of living metal. A time capsule, asked Tayo, who had come to find them. For future generations, explained Hyun, everything about how we saved the planet and what we learned from each other. They sealed the capsule and buried it beneath a young tree with purple leaves. The Confederation will never be the same, Ju observed as they finished. Nor will humanity. That's how progress works, Hyun replied, watching the twin suns beginning to set over their transformed world. Not through isolation or domination, but through unexpected connections. As darkness fell, the energy field that now surrounded the planet became more visible. It shimmered in the night sky like a beautiful aurora of blue and white light. The colonists had named it the Shield of Hope. What none of them knew was that the light could be seen from much farther away than they imagined. Far beyond the Confederation's borders, other civilizations were already noticing the strange new light in the galaxy. Some were curious, some were cautious, and some were already planning journeys to discover its source. On the Wanderer, now ready to depart, Commander Taho made one final log entry. We came to this planet expecting to find a simple mystery. Instead, we found the future. Not just for these remarkable humans, not just for the Confederation, but for all intelligent life that looks to the stars and dreams of what might be possible when different minds work together. In the colony below, the humans watched the ship rise into the night sky, knowing they were no longer alone. Their long isolation was over,